Hello, welcome to another episode of Tele Dialogue. Still on the series of Breaking Barriers, with this special episode being about mental health and awareness. I have with me a phenomenal woman. She's a medical doctor. She used to be an ER physician turned psychotherapist. She's a mother. She's a wife. She's also the founder of Kami Counseling Services. Please join me as I welcome Dr. Yewande Fadojutmi.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming and thanks for going over and beyond. I know, we had you away out of the country trying to come here and all that. I really do appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
And it's going to be a fantastic time. So, I know a lot of people are probably thinking, some people might know about Kami Counseling Services and some people might not know about Kami Counseling Services. So, can you tell the viewers your journey into starting Kami Counseling Services, what led into it, for you to create an environment for ambitious women where they can heal and where they can grow? Are you able to tell the viewers about that?
Sure. So in order to tell Kami's story, I have to share my story a little bit because, like you mentioned, I am a former ER doctor. And so going to medical school, going through residency, people always ask how many years was it? It was about 11 years in total. I worked as an ER doctor for several years. And then over time, I just started to feel a bit disconnected from what I was doing. And what that looked like was working in the emergency, very busy, feeling like the empathy that I had for my patients had gone. So there'll be times when I would leave the hospital, whether it was after an overnight shift, as doctors, as ER doctors, we could be working overnight, 7 a.m. shift. I would just enter my car and all of a sudden find myself crying. And I never really understood what that was until years later when I looked back and realized, okay, this was burnout. Not connecting with my patients. Sometimes when I would have to deliver bad news, as doctors, we're always seeing people who are going through all sorts of things, telling them, you have cancer, or telling them all sorts of things. I didn't feel that connection that I used to feel. The reason why I went into medicine was to be able to connect with people. But I realized that that's what people experience when they have burnout. So after seeing even some of my colleagues coming to the emergency department with panic attacks, with suicidal thoughts, meeting other lawyers, doctors who are experiencing the same things, burnout is a real, real thing. So in 2019, I went on maternity leave and did a lot of soul searching. So this was my second child, did a lot of soul searching and had to sit down and talk to myself and say, Yewande, is this really what you want for your life? I like to say that depression can be an opportunity for reinvention.
Wow.
Many times people think that what they have is clinical depression, but they're unhappy because their lives are out of alignment for what they're supposed to be doing, out of alignment with their purpose. So fast forward to sometime during the pandemic, I was doing telemedicine and people would just be calling me because, COVID was a very stressful time for people. They'll be calling me about their marriage problems, calling me about their parenting problems. My kids are driving me crazy. They'll be calling me about all sorts of things. And at first I'm like, I'm a medical doctor. I don't really know how to manage this. Until one day, I distinctly remember this woman, she had called because she was having problems with her husband. And I just talked to her. I took my doctor hat off and just talked to her and just empathized with her and just related with her. And at the end, she was like, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. The tips you gave me have been helpful. I feel so much lighter. I feel so much better. I was like, oh, that kind of felt good. That felt good. And so more and more when people would call with those kinds of problems, I would take my doctor hat off and just relate with them on that empathetic level. And so me kind of being the person I am, I'm like, okay, there must be something here. Let me actually figure out how to do this well so that I'm not just talking to people. Let me find out how I can really help them.
And you're feeling more connection at this point in time to those particular patients. So you knew, okay, this is what I'm getting my kick from this.
The funny thing is that these were one-offs. These were one-offs. So these were not necessarily people that were coming back regularly. It was maybe within 15 minutes, forming that rapport, identifying the problem, and then giving them a solution because it was a telemedicine setup. So it wasn't even like I was developing ongoing relationships, but even that short amount of time,
you felt fulfilled.
I felt so fulfilled. don't tell my ER colleagues, but way more fulfilled.
Sorry, guys.
Way more fulfilled than I did in the ER. It was so interesting to me. And I look back and I think during those times, I would tell my friends that this ER thing, I don't feel fulfilled. And they used to look at me like I was crazy because they're like, what do you mean? You're saving lives every day. What do you mean you're not fulfilled? But they just didn't get it. You will know when there's something missing. You will know inside of you when there's something missing. And so I went through the training. I got my license to become a cognitive behavioral therapist, and never looked back.
How do you guide them to reconnect with themselves beyond the roles they play at work?
So it's interesting that you said, how did you phrase it? You said,
so how do you guide them, or the reoccurring, like what wound do you see them carry
that goes unnoticed? Thank you. So that was the part by the world. Thank you. That was the part. What wound do they carry that goes unnoticed by the world? And I love that you put it that way, because like you said, the women that I see, the women that come to me for help, they are very ambitious women. I call them givers and achievers, because not only are they ambitious in their careers, they are also very generous, kind women who on the outside, they look like they have it all together. So they have the house, they have the car, they have the husband, they have the kids, they're getting the promotions, the awards.
And they're volunteering.
Everybody is like, sees them as the superwoman. But on the inside, they're literally falling apart and dying, because there's that disconnect between what others see on the outside and how they really feel on the inside. So they'll come and they say, Dr. Yewande, I don't know why. I feel very ungrateful because I have this beautiful life, but on the inside, I'm unhappy. There's something wrong with me. And I have to trace it back to the high standards that a lot of these women place on themselves. Because many times they will say that I need to do this for this person, I need to do that for that person, I need to do this. And I'm having to ask them, like, says who? Or they'll get a promotion and it's like, what's next? What's next? And we're having to slow down and say, okay, what is this constant drive that you feel like you're always looking for the next thing?
It's an expectation that they place on themselves, even though they feel the community or the world has placed expectation on them. But it's just internal. It's them placing that on themselves. But no one, like you said, if you ask them, no one is asking you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so
I need that all for you.
I like that you said internal, because if we look back at the childhood of many of these women, you'll see consistencies. So you'll see that generally they might be firstborn girls.
Oh. The firstborn?
Are you a firstborn?
No,
okay,
I know. There's a saying about the firstborn. They're like the guinea pigs. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, but because I've got 3 kids. And I know my first one, you do everything with them. Like, you learn. They're like, I wouldn't do that with the second one.
Yes. What's the age gap between your first and your second?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
So and your first is a girl?
Boy.
A boy. Okay. So firstborn, so they're generally firstborn girls. And what that looks like is a sense of responsibility for their siblings. Why? Because they've heard growing up, you need to be a good example. You need to be a good example. Your siblings are looking up to you. I had a woman in my practice, and she wasn't a firstborn. But I kept wondering, like, why is she giving firstborn energy? Because she wasn't a firstborn. But it turns out that her 2 older siblings had actually grown up in a different country. So when it came to light, I was like, yeah, this makes sense, because the same expectations, the same sense of responsibility, all of that feeling like you need to take care of everybody has been placed on them. So when you trace things back, you'll hear that, many of them might be firstborns, or they might have heard growing up that you're so smart, or you're so hardworking, or you're so responsible, you're so, all of those positive things, right? You think they're positive things, but what ends up happening is they end up being programmed to think that they always have to be smart, they always have to be responsible, to the point that when they're not doing those things, it's like an identity crisis that starts to happen.
I failed.
Yeah, it's like I failed, exactly. There was a study that was done many years ago by a psychologist called Carolyn Dweck. And she did something very interesting. She got kids, right, to solve different puzzles, mathematical puzzles, different kind of challenging things. And she realized that there were 2 distinct types of kids. On the one hand, the kids that will look at these puzzles and say, wow, this is a challenge. It's something I've never seen before. Let me take it head on. Let me work at it. And even if I fail, it was a wonderful experience. It was a learning experience. It was a growth experience, what we call growth mindset. That was what she termed as the thing that the kids had. On the other hand, she had these other kids who, when they were faced with something they've never seen before, they started to falter, they started to get stressed out, they started to panic. And if they didn't get it, they would be so hard on themselves and feel like they had failed. And even if they had failed, it's like, it was almost like the end of the world for them. Like I said, an identity crisis, what she called a fixed mindset. Many of the women that I see have a fixed mindset because over the years, they have always gotten things right. They've gotten the job, everything they wanted, they've gotten. And so they are not used to failure. And in fact, when they fail, they internalize that as something must be wrong with me. I am a failure. As opposed to separating it and say, I failed at something, they internalize it and say, I'm a failure. So I'm having to train them and retrain their wiring that it's okay to take risks. And even if you fail, doesn't mean that you are a failure. It's okay to let things down. You don't have to keep striving for the next goal consistently. They do that because it gives them a sense of self-worth. They attach their accomplishments, their self-worth to their accomplishments, instead of something more sustainable, like their kindness, their generosity, things about themselves that will never change. And so how do I help them? By just letting them see that, all these internal expectations you placed on yourself are not really necessary. No one is asking it of you. It's okay to set boundaries, right? It's okay to live in that.
No.
It's okay to say no. And really interestingly and very importantly, helping them realize that being in alignment with your purpose can actually alleviate some of this stress. Because many of them are just checking the boxes. You know how growing up, if you are good at speaking, you should be a lawyer.
Or you should be in a debate club.
I should be in a debate club. It's like,
You're good at science, you have to be a doctor. But
you're good at maths, you're an accountant, right? And so... And most of these ladies, these women have checked, they're good girls, right? So everything that everybody has said, they've done it. And then they get to a point and they're like, why am I not happy? Everybody said that if I did this job, if I got a good job, if I married a good man, if I bought a house, I should be happy. Where's the happiness that everybody promised me?
So do you know one thing that is occurring to me now as a parent? So one of the things, what I'm picking out from what you're saying, because you said it traces down to probably trauma from childhood. So as a parent, what I'm thinking is if I have a child that is doing something, your reflex reaction is to go, oh, well done. You've done really well. You're a fantastic child. And then you have some parents that will probably say, oh, you always listen to me. You always say yes to me. You always, you're ticking all the boxes. So what I'm hearing from you, there's actually a very thin line in that being detrimental to the child. Because you need to separate their achievement from who they are, their identity, and just place in what they're actually achieving, what they're doing as in the task.
Yeah. And
which I think I'm guilty of. Oh, you were fantastic at that soccer. Well done. You did well.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, you did well. You played well on Saturday. Give that. Not, you were like, so it's like, how to break that? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
You gave such a good example, and I hope that the viewers, I hope the viewers caught it, because instead of saying you are a great soccer player, you said you played well
on Saturday.
You played well. I saw your effort.
Yeah.
So you're praising the effort
on Saturday.
Thank you.
So when he doesn't play well on Sunday, it doesn't stop him from being who he is.
Right. Because, Tolu, what you said is so important, because imagine Sunday comes and he doesn't play well. You might not say anything because you don't want him to feel bad. But based on the fact that, oh, you are a good soccer player because you won, his brain is going to automatically say, well, I'm not good anymore. I'm not good anymore.
Yeah.
And then, because I see this a lot, where a child would have done so well throughout elementary school, high school, and then they get to university, and then it's like something cracks. Why? Because they may start feeling physics or failing certain subjects or maybe not getting the A's that they are used to. And when they start getting the C's or the B's, it's like an identity crisis. What's wrong with me? Am I not smart anymore? Am I a failure? And they cannot navigate those challenges and say, okay, like the growth mindset I talked about, okay, what do I need to do to put in more effort? How do I strategize to learn this better? It's like the fixed mindset was like, okay, if I can't get it, then I can't get it. I must be a failure. So we have to be very careful. It's okay to praise your kids, but doing it in a way that makes them have that flexible mindset, and that if things don't work out, doesn't mean
mindset, not the fixed mind. No, it's not about you. It's
exactly
about that hasn't worked out. Let's move on.
Exactly.
But it doesn't change you. It doesn't change the fact that you're who you are. And you like you were saying about when you're talking about your colleagues, like attaching to their kindness.
Yes.
You're kind because that's stable.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes, it's stable. Yes. So you got it. Guys, it's not one of my favorite things to talk about, which is your programming, your software. What are your core beliefs about yourself? What are your core beliefs about other people? What are your core beliefs about your environment? If you believe in your core that, any challenge that comes, as long as I put in my effort, I'm able to thrive, then your actions are going to follow that.
True.
But if at your core you believe I'm a failure, you might feel like, okay, what's the point of trying? What's the point of even studying?
I even hear people saying that they'll go, oh, the environment was in February anyway.
Yeah.
The government will not even. Yeah. But that's already having a fixed mindset, even as an adult. But you don't realize you already break it down before you even step into it. Right?
Exactly.
Oh, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
Oh, because I'm black.
Exactly.
It's not going to.
Exactly.
So
this is why you'll find two people in the exact same situation, maybe the same office, they worked on the exact same project, maybe they got a negative evaluation, the project didn't go well. One person might be like, I failed, they're going to fire me, this is the end of my career. And the other person is like, what could I have done better? Next time I'm going to try things a little bit different and see what kind of results I get. Two same people, exact same situation, different mindsets, different actions, and then different subsequent results.
Which leads me nicely to the next one. So we have solopreneurs who pride themselves, or even like professionals who pride themselves in being ambitious and strong. A lot of the time, it's just like they have it all together, and the vulnerabilities are taboo. So what does healing look like for someone who is always strong and how can they embrace vulnerability as part of their strength?
Yeah, so this is a good one because it goes back to what I was saying about your self-concept, the kind of programming that you have. So if you believe that vulnerability is a sign of weakness, your actions are going to, and I see this a lot, they don't know how to ask for help. They don't like to ask for help, right? Because they feel like, oh, that if I ask for help, it's going to look like I don't know what I'm doing. Well,
honestly, some people really make you feel like you don't know what you're doing, though. But you just have to ask for their help.
I remember my dad said something to me. He shared his story, and he said that, you know what, Yewande, that there'll come a time where you're going to need to ask a question, and you're going to feel very stupid for asking the question.
Ask anyway.
Ask anyway. Why? The person might abuse you from now to tomorrow, but that knowledge is yours now.
Yeah.
And it's yours forever. And you've taken a shortcut instead of trying to figure it out on your own. Just ask.
Yeah.
Just ask. And and it's very interesting, even if somebody looks at you funny, you can still have the belief that, you know what, this is knowledge that's mine forever, and move on.
And even if the person doesn't answer, nothing has happened to you.
Nothing's happened to you.
Like, just go to the next
Like
person.
my dad said one time too, he would say, the worst they can say is no. And a no is not going to kill you. It's not going to kill you. Yeah. So having to then reprogram how they see themselves. I know vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. In fact, I will tell them it's a sign of strength. Imagine you are a sailor or a captain of a ship, and the ship is going through stormy waters, and you're telling your first hand, get me the lifeboat here, support me on this. call for help over there. Nobody's going to look at the captain and say the captain is weak.
Yeah.
No, the captain is in control.
Yeah.
The captain knows what it needs, the ship needs, so that it doesn't sink.
Yeah.
And it's enlisting the support system, saying, okay, I need help here. I need someone to make meals for me. I need someone to pick up the kids for me on this day. I need to take a break. I'm going to call my sister to come and step in for me. There's a way you can ask it that does not make you look weak. Like I said, society isn't demanding that of you. Those are internal things that we've put on ourselves. But I like to help them shift the mindset that no, that it's actually a sign of strength. To be able to ask for help is a sign that you know what's going on, you're self-aware, and emotionally intelligent enough to ask for the right type of help in the right time.
Thank you very much. Meanwhile, you didn't speak about this, but we know and we love the podcast.
Thank you.
Happy Without Medicine.
Yes, thank you.
So, can you share with the viewers and just share a story of a transformation or testimonial from your work? One that reminds everyone about why taking time to heal is a courageous act, and one that reinforces your vision.
Okay.
Taking time to heal reinforces your vision, and it's also a courageous act. Is there anything you can share with us from the testimonial?
So, Tolu, one of the scariest things for people is change. The fear of the unknown is a real fear. So when you talk about courage, taking the time to heal, being courage, it really, really is. Because the human mind, the tendency is to say, okay, even if this thing is not working for me, in fact, even if this thing is harmful, I'm just going to stay here because at least I know what to expect. I know how this works. This is familiar to me. This is why you'll see, unfortunately, if people grow up in abusive households, they often will end up with abusive partners because that instability they can identify. So when you say that taking time to heal is courage, it really is, because it's like, I know this, I know what to expect. Stepping out of my comfort zone and opening up to someone or doing things differently, breaking the pattern, it takes a lot of work and it is very courageous. So I'll say that. A testimonial, you asked about a testimonial.
Yeah.
I remember meeting a lady who listened to the podcast, and she said to me, she said, you know what, this podcast, I've never met you before. Eventually we did meet in person, but she had listened for a while. And she said, you know, this podcast kept me going, even when I thought I could not keep going. You know, and that really touched me because sometimes I feel like I'm just recording into a microphone. Who's really listening?
There's no live audience.
There's no live audience.
We are listening. Yeah. We are listening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And she said, you know, this podcast kept me going. It kept me going through challenges with my kids. It kept me going with being a single mom. It kept me going with being through financial situations, health challenges. So she said, thank you so much for what you do. And I really thanked her for listening. The other transformation that I would like to share is, and this is one I actually hear in my practice as well, but when listeners or my clients will say, you know what, nothing has really changed about my situation, meaning it's still the same job, I still have the same husband, there's still challenges, but I'm happier. Yeah, I'm at peace. And I'm like, so to me, it's like you said, it's a mindset. The circumstances have not changed.
But they're both from fixed.
Yes, to growth. Exactly. Exactly.
We need to be on the growth side, not the fixed side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're seeing themselves differently. They're seeing their circumstances differently. They're probably focusing on what they have versus what they don't have. Like you said, I work with a lot of ambitious women. Instead of focusing on that goalpost that is always shifting, because once they arrive, it's like, okay, what's next? And they arrive, and then what's next? They never arrive, truthfully. So we're getting them to focus less on the gap between where they are now and where they think they should be. And actually taking the time to reflect and say, look at how far I've come. A month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago.
And that's powerful.
It is.
I think human beings really, we're our greatest critic. Like you said, that internal voice and expectation that you have.
Yeah.
But when you say it's like counting your blessings,
Yes.
like you're like, wow, I've done a lot more. It could be worse. And
Yes.
there's always someone it's not about even the people. It's just about, it could always be worse off.
Yes.
So it's about just looking back and going, you know, actually I've done well.
Yes.
And give yourself a pat on the back, like,
Yeah.
Even if just waking up and making it to work that day, you've done well because I've actually stayed in bed. And
Exactly. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And I actually always encourage my clients to work on their gratitude because our brains forget easily. Even for me, there'll be times where I'm like, okay, yesterday, because I like to write 3 things that happened the day before that I'm grateful for. And in the morning,
I'm still in that 3 things that you're grateful for every day, like the day before.
Yes.
You do that. So I'm still in that. You're free to say that.
And it's interesting. I'll sit and I'm like, okay, what happened yesterday? What happened yesterday? What happened yesterday?
And what?
And then I'll remember maybe an email or a breakthrough from one of my clients. And I'm like, how did I forget so quickly?
Yeah.
Something that I may have been dancing about and jumping about, but 12 hours later, it's already gone from our brains. That's how the human brain is. It's called a negativity bias, which means that we are more prone to remember negative things than we are to remember positive things.
Really?
Yeah, it's actually a survival. Yeah, it's a survival mechanism for us.
Oh, wow.
It's a survival mechanism
so
for us.
I'm going to be forgiven now. Now that you said that.
But we have to reprogram ourselves.
After all that I've done, just that one thing is what you're holding on to.
Yes.
Like 10 good things for you. You're holding on to this one.
Yes.
Okay, you're all forgiven.
Exactly. So grace for people, helping them realize what they are doing. But that negativity bias is a real thing for us as humans.
Negativity bias.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
I hope you guys are as well.
So what gratitude does is it reprograms our brains to focus on what is going well, because those things tend to wash away so quickly, whereas the negativity tends to stick more easily. So when you wake up in the morning and okay, what are the 3 things that I'm grateful for? And you look back, it puts you in a different mindset and atmosphere. There are times when I might be driving to work and I'm feeling so frustrated and upset. And I'm like, okay, Yewande, what are you grateful for? And it's almost like a dark cloud starts to shift because my focus is not on what isn't going well. My focus is now on what is going well.
Okay,
it's a
so
powerful...
I'm sort of doing that subconsciously. So what I do instead is I play a worship song.
Yeah.
And with worship, it's always about you praising God, worshiping God. And it just makes you realize His awesomeness in your life.
Yes.
For me. So that makes it so... I think it's kind of...
the same thing. It's the same thing. Shifting the atmosphere. Yeah.
Psychotherapist.
Yes. But to be honest, what you're doing in this space, it is therapeutic. So thank you so much for what you do.
Okay, so outside of the expectation being placed on you, your responsibilities, your roles, your title, who is Dr. Yewande Fadojutmi at her core? Who are you?
So at my core, I am a God girl. I am.
I can tell.
My faith is so integral to how I live my life. I'm a daughter, as you said. My parents have been so instrumental in shaping me into the woman that I am today. I owe so much to them. Mommy and Daddy, if you're watching, thank you for everything that you have done. I am a big sis to my siblings, many cousins. I have lots of mentees that also look at me as their big sis as well. I'm a mom, and I don't take that role lightly at all. I believe that part of my calling is to impart what I can into these 2 young souls that God has put into my life so that they can also fulfill the purpose that He created them for specifically. And of course, I am a wife. I'm a wife to BKF.
I'm yet to meet BKF.
My number 1 supporter, Tolu. None of this would be possible if he wasn't the man that he is. And I know you're going to be watching, so thank you so much for everything that you do for me, for the kids, for our family. We really appreciate you. So that's it. I'm an encourager. I'm a teacher. I love to dance. I love to worship as well. That's me pretty much in a nutshell.
And you're amazing. I remember the first time I met you. It's just so sweet. At that launch thing.
I remember.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming here today. Don't worry, we're not done yet.
Okay.
Just one more.
Okay.
So if there was one word of advice you could give someone that is watching right now, what would it be in terms of just connecting with who they are? What would that be?
So because of the nature of women I work with, I call them givers and achievers because they give so much of themselves and they're also very ambitious. They don't like the word self-care.
Or grace.
Or
Like
grace.
you were telling me earlier when we were speaking.
Yes, or grace, because to them, self-care sounds selfish, right? And grace to them sounds like weakness. Why do I need grace? I should be able to handle it all. I'm a strong woman. And so again, we're having to do the work to say, no, you have to be kind to yourself. Grace is not a bad thing. So what I would say to them is that if you are not well, nothing and no one around you can be well. And what does that mean? As women, we are like the soil. And anything that grows out of the soil is a product of the quality of the soil. And so because we're nurturers, we're givers and all of that. And so the soil has to be high quality. So you have to pour into yourself. You have to take care of yourself. You have to be well. And, many of these women don't believe me until I start to push them and challenge them. And they'll say, you know what? I'm a better wife because I'm taking care of myself better, because I'm prioritizing myself now. I'm prioritizing my wellness now. I'm a better mom. I'm a more empathetic doctor. I'm a better teacher, whatever that might look like. I'm studying better. They're able to give of themselves more because they've poured into themselves. They've increased their capacity by nurturing themselves, by healing themselves. Because we hear this all the time. It's a cliche, but it's the truth. You cannot pour out of an empty cup.
No, you can't.
And so, yes, we know it's a cliche, but everybody needs to know what it is that refuels them, what it is that rejuvenates them. They need to know how to rest. That's a whole different topic, right? I like to say that rest is required for success. And so as you're chasing your success, know when it's time to rest. It's not a sign of weakness to need rest. Even the fastest race cars, Formula One, they have pit stops for a reason because they know that they can't just keep going and going and going without stopping, refueling to then recharge and get back on track. So what I will say is that it's not a bad thing to take care of yourself. It's a good thing because nothing will be well around you if you are not well. It's a ripple effect.
Yeah, I do agree with that 100%. You can't pour out of an empty cup, no matter whether we've had it terminal, you can't. You literally can't.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there are some people that are watching right now and they're probably feeling like, actually, I'm getting to work, I'm feeling anxiety. I know, and I have a couple of friends that will tell you that, like, well, my manager is on my case, or I don't want to see this person. I'd rather want to work from home, but I'm only going to work because I have to go to work. If they had their, not just for convenience, just because of the environment. In fact, a friend in particular, I think I work in where I tell her it's toxic because it's just about demanding. And there's a blame culture where nobody wants to feel you make a mistake is a big deal. So if the people that are watching and they're in that situation, they're worried, what would be your advice instead of the first step they need to take now? How can they get out? And they'll feel like, okay, I'm in this situation, what can I do? How can I get out of this whole rat race where I'm unhappy, I'm feeling disconnected, I'm at work. But yes, I've heard you, Dr. Yewande, but what is the next step? What can I do now?
So because I see a lot of women who come to me specifically for work-related stress, anxiety, it's something that I walk through them with a lot. So the first thing I would say is, have you spoken to HR? Sometimes it's even just speaking to HR because there's a pattern. If there's a good HR manager, then they can step in and start to ask the right questions. I've seen places where they've brought in an external consultant to really see, okay, what's going on here? Do we have multiple complaints? Because what I've noticed is sometimes people suffer in silence.
A lot of people do.
A lot of people suffer in silence. So even just taking a step to say, you know what, this isn't right. Acknowledging that this isn't right. The danger in just staying in that suffering in silence is that it can actually change one's mindset about oneself, how you view yourself. I've seen where it has cost people their confidence. It has caused a lot of trauma in that even when they go to a different work environment,
they carry that with them.
I see where it causes paralysis, where it's like, I'm so anxious, I can't even work, right? So Is this something that is a pattern? Have you spoken to your HR? And if you don't feel safe yet, because let's be honest, not every organization.
I know, like HR is my HR manager and my manager go for coffee together every time.
Exactly. Yeah. So unfortunately, that might not be an option. Then seek help from a therapist or someone that can coach you through some of the symptoms that you are experiencing. So if you are getting to the parking lot and before you know it, you're having a panic attack, then that's what therapy is there for, to help you deal with some of those symptoms. Ultimately, though, it's not healthy to stay in a toxic environment. So while you're getting therapy, while you're looking at your options, it may be time to start thinking about, okay, where do I move to? Is there a lateral move in the same organization under a different manager? Is there a completely different job that I'm experiencing? Is there a completely different job that I need to apply for? Are there skills that I need to get so that I can work for myself? So at that point, we might need to start looking at realistic options. Yes, we're looking through the HR option. Yes, we're looking to the therapy option, but you don't want to stay in a toxic workplace forever. And one thing that I even like to talk about is workplace safety, psychological safety. Many managers don't know that they're the problem. And so even explaining to them that, no, you need to be someone who creates an environment of safety where people can be productive and successful in their careers. It's so important.
And have the growth mindset and not the fixed mindset, because I think what tends to happen there, these people panic.
Yeah.
Especially when they've done something, maybe they've failed at maybe made a mistake. I can see this person that I know, she's like, oh my goodness, I didn't send an email. And I'm like, this is not healthy. Like, you didn't send an email. Yeah, sorry, I didn't send the email. Let's move on. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's another kettle of fish, because sometimes the manager might not be a problem. It might be baggage that we've brought from school, from childhood, where making a mistake was not allowed. You break a cup and the next thing you know, people are on your case, where people are so afraid to make mistakes. And so,
This has been amazing. So how can people reach you? I'm sure there are people that are here that are like, okay, I want to do that. And I know these are the services you've offered. Everything you spoke about is something that you can actually give people, either the equipment, the coaching, the process, the therapy. So how can people reach you?
So I'm on Instagram at Dr. Yewande. So that's dr.yewande. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm Yewande Olamide Fadojutmi on LinkedIn. And so if you need to reach out to me, you can connect with me on those social platforms. And if you're interested in learning more about Cami Counseling Services, the website is camicounseling.com. And so that's counseling with 2 L's. CamiCounseling.com.
And Cami with a K.
Yeah, Cami with a K.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm so happy. I've actually learned a lot. Like, I'm sure my kids were like, Mommy, what happened to you? I'm like, Cami counseling happened. So there's something that we do on Tele Dialogues just before we sign out.
Okay.
And that is the shimmering.
Right.
So we're going to shimmer to what we believe the platform tab, which is to elevate, to empower, and to inspire.
Yeah.
So are you ready?
I'm ready.
But before we do that, so thank you everybody for viewing, and all the details for Cami Counseling and Dr. Yewande will be in the link below. And till next time on Telu Dialogue. So let's do it. Count 1, 2, 3, go.
Inspire, empower, elevate.
Yeah, on Telu Dialogue. So thank you everybody, and see you next time. Thank you very much for coming. I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So much fun.